What's up, good people? African traveler here. So today it's on a Friday, and it's a holiday in Kenya. It's on 10th of October. We normally celebrate we normally celebrate this holiday called Moi Day. Moi Day was our second president, and the same month on the 20th we'll have Kenyatta Day, who was our first president. I don't know. I don't understand what happened. Our latest the two other leaders that came later on didn't create their holiday. Probably it's time. With time things change. Not so many East Africans have had a discussion about the year of return. Actually, most East Africans don't even know what the year of return is. The only person I've seen talking about the year of return in East Africa is Dr. Mumbi. I don't think it's only East Africans. I also think a lot of Africans didn't hear about it, because it was really pushed by the Ghanaians, spearheaded by the president Nana Akufo and a lot of celebrities. So I started hearing about the year of return personally last year. I wasn't aware of it. I normally watch a lot of YouTubers, vloggers, guys like Search for Uhuru, Dr. Mumbi, Oshe Dukes, and also big guys like Dr. Phil on African Diaspora channel. And I learned, when you watch such content, sometimes you learn a lot about the continent, and normally I go and dig deeper to understand some of the things they talk about, because there's a big disconnection between Africans around the world. So sometimes it's sad when you read about it, and YouTube is really connecting people. It's a nice. It came at a good time, at least, to connect people around the world. You don't really need to watch the Western media every time, and YouTube came in handy. And such. The year of return was actually to mark 400 years from the first batch of African slaves who arrived in the Americas, the Jamestown town, Virginia, in the year 1600. So in 2019 we are marking 400 years since the first enslaved team of Africans arrived in Jamestown town, Virginia. So this was spearheaded by the Ghanaian president, in order to just try and reach out to the African community around the world. And the main aim was to try and reconnect Africans together, which was really noble. And the other thing is try and invite Africans from all over the world to come back to the motherland, at least also to see if they can invest. And for me, I thought it was a really noble idea. The thing is, Ghana will always spearhead a lot of stuff. If you see things like African Union, from the colonial time, people like Kwame Nkrumah, post-colonial time, Kwame Nkrumah really did a lot to try and reunite Africa. And when I saw Nana Akufo spearheading this, the same thing, I thought it was really noble. And Ghana, despite the small population, they always lead on the front. The biggest slave trade in the world, in the history of the world, was called transatlantic trade. So it mostly affected African, mostly from the West Africa, the Central Africa, were being shipped in a very inhuman nature to the Americas mostly, and Europe and around the world. So mostly at that time we had huge plantations in both North America and South America, where they needed a lot of labor to work. And at that time you had Africans, were very naive, and the second thing, were very well built. So the first people who started this trade were Portuguese, and later on joined by everyone, the British, the Spanish, the French. And it was a very lucrative business, whereby these guys, the white supremacists, coordinated with some kingdoms just to ensure constant shipment of slaves to to the Americas, some to Europe, and these guys were shipped in a very, very bad situation. They were chained. They were, chained from the hand to the leg to the neck. They were chained on the ships. So on transatlantic trade, it's estimated that around 12 to 15 million Africans were shipped to, 10 to 15 million Africans were shipped around the world at that time, and mostly to the Americas, Caribbean, and South America. So these Africans are mostly from West Africa, the central part of Africa mostly. The East Africa was not really that big. Yes, there was slave trade in East Africa, but mostly they went to the Arab countries and also the islands, the Mauritius, the Seychelles. So the East Africans were really shipped on that side, and in East Africa it was coordinated around Zanzibar. So it was a very bad thing. Slave trade started at around the year 1600 and it ended in the year 1800. So slave trade worked for around 200 years. Even when they arrived on the other side of the continent, they were auctioned. It was, when you try to think human beings being auctioned, sometimes you wonder. But so the year of return also, I think it's a good thing to reach out to the guys who are enslaved to other countries, because I think they were not enslaved. Slavery is not something in your own will. So when you reach out to people, we should really reach out to them. And some of them, these are their grandchildren. Probably they can only read it in history, they can only hear it by stories, but they still need to connect back to the roots. So Ghana really packaged itself very well for the year of return, and a lot of celebrity came, guys like Steve Harvey. We had people like Donald Glove. We had Boris. We had Idris Elba from UK. It was to invite all Africans around the world, and some of the key celebrities in Hollywood came, and also Hollywood celebrities from countries like UK graced the occasion. And Ghana started, and I don't understand how so many countries didn't grab this opportunity also to just try and invite other Africans. And these are some of the things we say our leaders should really work in unison, because these are opportunities that you shouldn't let go. You shouldn't let go. I just hope more and more African leaders will join this movement in reaching out, because we need to rewrite the wrongs that we did. We need to sit down and unite. Africans around the world don't really, and I hear a lot of it, whereby Africans from Africa who are in a country like America don't really, mingle well with the African Americans. Yes, I'm sure there's to an extent there is, but it's not to a larger extent whereby you feel that this is a brotherhood. And we need Africans around the world to come back to the continent, back to the motherland, and this will help in different ways. It will be mutual, because Africa has so much opportunity, and sometimes it baffles me why, but there's a great disconnect amongst the blacks around the world, and it's time to break these barriers. And when Africans around the world visit the mother continent, it will kill a lot of the stereotypes pushed by the West. Because end of the day, the funny thing is, there's a lot of stereotype about Africa, hunger, civil wars, poor leadership. But the people who come to Africa a lot, who visit Africa a lot, are the same people who say it's bad. So when you guys come to Africa, you will help to kill this stereotype. And I hope more and more African leaders will join in the movement for, reaching out to every African every African around the world, so that you guys can come and invest in Africa, one, and number two, you can help in terms of transformation of the African continent. What am I saying? This, when people move, when people from different continents, people from different countries, people from different areas meet, there's a great mind that is shared. There's a great vision that people can, can share together. So we really need Africans to unite, and there's always unity, there's always strength in unity, and this is something I can tell you for sure that people don't want. They don't want people to unite, because it will shake a lot of stuff. There's a lot of resources in the continent, and we need it in the right hand. The reason why I'm saying is African has produced one of the highest number of raw materials, if in terms of gold, iron, gold. But the continent is still very poor, and I don't see it changing until we change how we do things. We have to own up, and we need our brothers around the world also to be part in this. We need a voice from around the world also, just to push for a common goal. So when you see a country like Israel, there was a time Israel was non-existent. I don't want to dig deep, because there are some people who still don't consider it as a country. The Jew went around the world, and during Holocaust, 6 million Jews were killed, and it was a very big hit for them, and they decided to come together and go back to create back their Israel that once was, and right now the country as Israel is doing very well. And this is the same thing. You can't get respect out there if you don't have your own root, so you have to connect back. And right now Israel is really respected, because at least they have something. Wherever they go and explore and invest, they always feel this home, there's somewhere I can go back. And I'm encouraging all Africans around the world, you visit the continent, and sometimes it's always surprising. In your mind, probably you've done those generic things, I don't know, gene watch, and it tells your countries this and that. So if you're planning to relocate, if you're planning to relocate back to the continent, it's something that you should plan. Make it a 5-10 year plan. It's not something that you're just coming back to the continent and connect directly. So make it a plan. Come probably the first year, visit 2-3 countries. And I'm telling you, before you you make your decision, 95% of the time you'll change it, because connection always comes with the people. People are the reason why you love a place, and probably you're planning to stay in Kenya, and you end up loving Ghana more than Kenya. Probably you're planning to resettle in another country, and the year of return does not only mean you coming back and resettle to the continent. It's mostly to connect to the roots, and feel connected to the continent, and also kill the stereotype that a lot of the time has been created about Africa. We really need to kill that stereotype, and yeah, for me it's a good thing. I'm in support of this, and I hope more leaders can back up this, and yeah, we need all Africans to unite around the world. So leave a comment. Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think Africans around the world connecting back to the continent is a good thing? Cheers. Peace out.